So why do they call it structure query language? Because it has a language that we use to talk with the database. Yes, just like how you used to talk with the computer to tell the computer to do this, like using your Python programming and so on and so forth. So also database has its own language called query language, and that language is called SQL. A single database can have multiple tables, and every table has its own name. You can see we have this table, we have that table, we have this table. Hello backend developers, into this class we're going to discuss about database, and here are the things that we're going to discuss in this video. By the end of this video you should know what is database, what is database server, what is DBMS, and how database works, so that you as a beginner you don't have any problem with a database. At the end of this video you will understand everything about database. So here are the things that we're going to learn in this video. We're going to discuss about data, forms of data, what is database, types of database, then DBMS, which is called database management system, and database server. And after we're done with this, we're going to jump into our computer and start creating our own database, and we're going to implement something that we call CRUD: create, read, update, delete. We're going to see how we're going to create data in database, how we're going to read the data, update the data, and delete the data using Python programming. So welcome to this video. As a backend developer, let's jump and start with what is data. So what is data? As you can see here is I drew a little picture of human, and it is information, or I say his information. Yes, data is something that is going to tell you a little bit about something that you should know. For example, you order a food in a restaurant and you don't know that the food, it has poison on it. When you are about to eat the food, then suddenly someone just come from nowhere and say, wait, don't eat that food, it's been poisoned, and you do not eat it. You see, that thing that he told you is something that you don't know, and is a very important piece of data that you should know. And when he mentioned it, now you change your perspective upon that food, and you will not going to eat it. So that's what we call data. So exactly here is the same thing. Your name is a data. If I saw you somewhere else and I look at you, you look at me, and I don't know you, so even though you do know me, if I don't know you, you have to tell me your name. So by telling me your name or something about you, that will make me to understand, okay, you are a Musa, or you are a John, or so on. So this is data. So here are the person, and this person, this is the data related to this person. His name is a data. His age is also a data. Is it a black? True, is a data. And also this is his date of birth is also a data. So when you know this about someone and you tell him, I know you born in 2002, your name is Musa, and you are a black, he will be shocked. How did you know that? And so on. So you see, this is a data. It's a very piece of very important. So the thing about database is supposed to store all of this data. Database can be able to store the data of thousands of people across the globe, every person. So if you like, you can create a database and store all the information of people around the world, so that the moment you met with someone, you already know him. When you look at you, okay, you are a John, okay, you are a Michael, they will just shocked and look at you. How did you know me? This is insane and crazy. So you see, this is a data, and the database is just a memory that will store all this data: the name, the age, the black thing, and the date of birth. That's what database is all about. It's just about storing this data. So moving on, we have forms of data. We will see how we're going to store this data, and how database work to store this data, and also how we are retrieving the data. So we have forms of data, which is, we have different forms of data. We have text, for example, like here the name is in form of text, the data is in form of text. Musa George is in form of text. Then we have age, which is the age is in form of number, which is this integer. Then we have a boolean, which is boolean mean true or false. The data is either true or false. For example, like the example I gave you with that put, the put is poison, so we can just write in database like poisoned, in terms of like question, is poisoned, then the value is supposed to be true or false. That's the boolean value. Then we have date or timestamp, like the timestamp. So here is date of birth, and also we can also store a time like 3 o'clock, 19, and so forth. Then we have byte, which is this is a binary. We can also store binary data in a database, also form of data byte. For example, like music, video, and so on, we can also store them. This is the byte. So these are the forms of data we have in the database. We have so many of them. This is not only the forms of data, but these are the most common one. And this byte can store any kind of form of data. Maybe you want to store a game state, but in forms of data there is no game state, so you can store it in a byte in database, which is in form of it is binary, so that when you retrieve it, you will have a program that will decode it into its actual state of data. So now we understand that what is data, forms of data. Now we're going to understand what is database. So as you can see, what is database? Database is the base of all data, where the data is stored exactly. Like I told you, we understand what is data. So where does data is being stored? As you can see, these are the datas. We have the name Musa John. His age is in form of integer 23. We have Khalid Aliu 26, Peter Gabriel 19, Emmanuel Gabriel Aliu, so on. You see, if we like, we can have so many amount of this data. So what happened inside a database is just a collection of table, and every single table is a collection of datas. It's a collection of datas of thousands of people. For example, as you can see here, this is what we call a table in database. So if we have a single database, for example, assuming this is our database, so this database can have so many tables in it. Yes, this database can have one table, 2, 3, 4, 5, thousands of tables, and every table has its kind of information that is stored. So in this table, we store the information of people, or I say the data of people. You see, what did we use to store in this table? We store their ID, we store their name, and we store their age. That all the things we store. We can also create another table that you're going to store their picture and their hobbies that they like. We can also create another table where we're going to store maybe their academic information, which school is he going, which what is his grade, and so on and so forth. So every table has its kind of information that is stored, and every table must have a name. So this is the table, this is the name of the table, people, and then in every table we have columns, and then we have row. So a single row represents a information of a single person, or I say single data, and column represent a field. For example, like here we have a column, so this is what we call a field. This field is used to store ID, and this ID is in form of number, and this ID you must store it. You can't ignore it. It's automatic in database, especially SQL. Then we have name in form of text. You see, this is the field. You see, I write it here, column. So this is the column, and every column has its own field. So this field is going to store the name. So everything that we're going to see in this field is a name. So you can see it here. And then we have this field is going to store an age, and everything is going to be stored in this field is going to be age, and also an integer in forms of number. And then the column, like I said, it represent is information about a single data. So like this here, we can say something like Musa has an ID of 1. In row 1 we have an ID of 1. The name is Musa and his age is 23. So as you can see, this is a row of data that if you take it completely, the row is become now an information from the database. So in database, if we say select the ID1, show it to me, then you're going to see Musa, and then his age 23. So I hope now we understand what is table. This is the table. What is column? These are the columns, or I say the field. Then what are the row? These are the rows. And every row represents an information. So now, since you understand this, and I said a single database can have multiple tables, and every table has its own name. You can see we have this table, we have that table, we have this table, all in a single database. So how many types of database do we have? Now we understand what is inside the database is a table, and every single table has its kind of data is used to store. This table is for people. This table we don't specify, and this table also we don't specify, but we can specify. So we have two types of database, which is SQL and no SQL. SQL means structure query language. No SQL means no structure query language, which is this structure query language means your data is being structured. So if you look at this one, we can call it SQL exactly because the data is structured in table like this. So we can call it SQL. So these are the type of SQL database. No SQL database, if you know Python dictionary. So how Python dictionary used to store data, that's the same thing with no SQL. No SQL also store Python like people data like Python dictionary. So the types of database we have in SQL, we have like PostgreSQL, MySQL, Oracle, and so on and so forth. In NoSQL side, we have something like MongoDB, this and that and so on. So why do they call it structure query language? Because it has a language that we use to talk with the database. Yes, just like how you used to talk with the computer, to tell the computer to do this, like using your Python programming and so on and so forth. So also database has its own language called query language, and that language is called SQL. And the language is only available in the first type of database, which is SQL database. But it didn't we don't have a language for NoSQL. We only have a language for SQL. So these are the example of the language. So in database, for example, if I want to create this kind of table inside a database, this is how I'm going to tell the database to do. I'm going to say the database create table, then I put the name of the table like you see here. I said people, then I give it ID, and I give it the field, for example, like this field, the ID, name, age. So I will say, okay, in a query language, I will say create table, then the name of the table, which is people, then the field that is supposed to be appear in the table, ID, name, and so on and so forth, whatever I put. So this query language is very important for you as a back-end developer to learn it, to know how you're going to talk with the database to get what you want, or to create table and so on and so forth. And then here we have select all from people. It's also a query language. This one is like telling the computer, okay, select all the people inside a table called people. Select all the data, or I say select all the row, this row. Select all the row. So when you say select all the row, then you tell the database from which table. Maybe in your database you have so many tables, so you tell them the table. Say from people table. Select all from people table. Where maybe this you're going to be specify. You're going to say select all from people table where name equals to Emmanuel. So if you say where name equals to Emmanuel, you are telling that database, okay, select all the person inside this table that has a name of Emmanuel. If I say select people where age equals to 23, then it will gather all the people that has an age of 23. Then we have another example of the query language. For example, this one say update people set name equal to Sani, where ID equals to 1. This is telling the database like, okay, I want you now to update in people table. I want you to update a name to Sani where the person ID is 1. For example, now this is the ID. The ID is what? Is Musa. The ID is 1 and his name is what? Musa. And now you set update it, the people, and set his name to what? To ID where okay, sorry. So now here you are saying that, okay, update people means what? To update, to change someone name in a table called people, set the name of that person. You see, this is the field that you want to change. This is the field, and you say set the name equals to Sani, and then who is the person, and you say the person ID is 1, which is in this case is Musa. So now you are telling the database, okay, update the name of Musa to Sani. This is all you are telling the database. So this is also a query language. So on learning query language to know how to talk with your database is very important. And if you want to learn it, subscribe to this channel. So moving on to what we call a DBMS, database management system. DBMS is very important. DBMS is a software for managing database. Yes, in a single database we have multiple tables, thousands of tables, and in a single table we have multiple rows, thousands of rows that represent people data. So in a DBMS, a single DBMS can have multiple database, as you can see. For example, we can have a school database, we can have company database, we can have organization database, so on and so forth. So DBMS is just like a normal if you know Excel, just like an Excel spreadsheet. So DBMS is like that. So in a single Excel you can create multiple files to work for Excel. For example, a medicine Excel, this Excel, and so on and so forth. And in every Excel you have like something like this, like the table. You have multiple sheets. You can create so many sheets. So it's the same thing here in the database. The same thing to Excel, the same thing to database. So every single file is a database. Don't think a database like a computer sitting somewhere, a giant computer. No, it's just a file, just like your video file. You say this so file dot mp4. So instead of this, you will just say so file dot database. That's just it. It's just a file. But the DBMS is a software. It's not a file. It's a software. So we have different kind of software, different kind of DBMS software. We have Postgres, we have MySQL, we have this, we have that. So personally, I'm using Postgres, and when I'm going to teach you also a Postgres, and also I'm using Linux because I'm a back-end developer. So if you are using Windows, well, I'm sorry, because I prefer to use Linux because I'm a back-end developer. I used to talk with Linux in the database, so why not just completely be Linux native? So what can you do in a DBMS? Usually in a DBMS, you're going to create an account, you're going to set role for that account, and you're going to create users and also delete users. For example, now I create this database, and this database I want to connect it for my Django application. Only this database I want to connect with my Django application. To connect this database for my Django application, I have to create a user in the DBMS. When I create the user, then I will set the role of that user to this database. When I set the role, then I will give him the privileges, what he can do in this database, what he cannot do. Then after that, if I don't like the user, I will delete the user and so on. So by creating the user, I will give him username and password. where he can be used to log in and access this database. If I do not give him access to this database in my DBMS, he will not be able to access them. So there is a lot to learn about DBMS, but don't worry, I will teach you. Just subscribe to this channel. So moving on, I'm going to discuss about database server. So what happened with our applications? Yes. So in your application, this is your application. You create a simple application where a user will log in and he can be able to view his profile. So what happened when the user put his name, age, and so on? The moment he click on creating the account. So in your application, you already maybe set a database somewhere in a website. You rent a database, you set it. Let me try to explain what I'm doing here. If you don't get it, I'm trying to explain what is database server. So just by you want to store like people information, just like Facebook, they are storing thousands of people information. So how do they use to manage that? Well, they have a database server. This database server is just like the Facebook. Whenever you log into the Facebook, is already there on the internet waiting for your request. So it's the same thing with the database server. So the database server is somewhere on the internet, but no one know the URL of that database server. Only the Facebook engineers, they can be able to access it. So even though if you know the URL, you access it, you cannot be able to do anything because you don't have the privilege to access the database. You don't have the login details and so on. So but they do have the login details. So when they want to create a table or database inside this database, they will just send a query to that URL, and then the query will go onto the database, and then the database server is going to have a port where he will be using to communicate with outside to communicate with other programs. Just like to communicate with a website, you must have a port of 80. For a secure website, I think it's 443 or 442, I can't remember. So the same thing with database server. It has a port that will allow you to send query into the database. But before any query will be executed, we have to authenticate. So this is what happened. If you want to communicate with your database, after you set up your database, you create a user, you give a user the role, you give it a username and password, and then you set it all in your application. So whenever someone create an account, he don't know that when he click submit, you sent a query. Then the query will contain this information: the engine of the database, the name of the database, then the user. That's the user you created in your database, and you combine the user with your Django code. Not every single user it has. No. A single user you created with your inside this database server, you're going to combine it with your Django code. So whenever someone create account, that user that you create for your Django, it will go on the user and the password, and then the host. That's the URL of the database. Whenever the database where it is in the world, this is the URL, the host. So when you put the host and then the port, these are the port that you're going to communicate with. Then the query will go. When it go to that host, this is the host. So when it go to that host, then it will locate the specific port, and then he send the query through that port. When he send the query through that port, then it will be authenticated, and then the query will execute it to the database, and then he will get a response back. So this is how database server works. So if you have any question, you can ask in the comment section below. See you in our next video, and write code and create web application.